So I've always been interested in science and math, and that is something that I excelled at when I was in secondary school. And then by the time I went to college, I was actually thinking about becoming a doctor. So I was a pre-med major in as an undergraduate, but by the time I finished, I wasn't sure it was right for me. So I joined the US Peace Corps and I went to Kenya in East Africa for 3 years. And I was a teacher at a secondary school there. It was a small local school. They called them Harambee schools, which meant freedom schools. That was coming to an end. I started thinking about what do I want to do? And so I just started looking at programs at universities around the country, and I came across the field of epidemiology, and I was just really drawn to it. So when I came back from East Africa, I moved to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and I took my first epidemiology class, and then I was just hooked. I was working at the University of North Carolina, so I was able to take this class as a staff member. And then I just applied to graduate schools and ended up at the University of Washington in Seattle. Really got interested in cancer at that point. The whole idea of, especially for females, but also males, how hormones can drive the body and sometimes drive cancer, whether that's endogenous, so hormones within your body, or exogenous, hormones that you bring into the body. So since then, that's really been my focus, is to study female hormone-related cancers such as breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and endometrial cancer. The biggest challenge during that career journey is that I come from a first-generation college family. So my brothers and sisters and I were the first ones in our family to complete college and then to go on for graduate degrees. And so for me, it was a challenge because I pretty much had to put myself through school. So all the years of my schooling, from undergraduate through graduate school. So that was always a challenge because I had to work harder than some of the other students, that had everything paid for and that sort of thing. Now, I was very lucky. I got scholarships and that sort of thing. That really helped. But that was a real challenge for me, coming from a first-generation college family. I love the outdoors. That's one of the reasons I love being in Colorado and the Mountain West just in general. When I was younger, I was a climber, so I did rock climbing and ice climbing and mountaineering in general, and I've done that all around the world. I've retired from technical climbing now, but I still spend a lot of time hiking with my dogs and my husband, skiing, snowshoeing. We do pretty much everything, backcountry camping. Just really like being in the outdoors and getting exercise. I would say it would be my mentor and supervisor when I was getting my PhD and then my postdoc. This gentleman's name was Dr. Noel Weiss. He has now retired, but he was the chair of the department at the University of Washington. And he also worked at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, where I did my graduate and then postdoc research. And what was really wonderful about him is that he gave you a lot of freedom to do what you needed to do, but at the same time, he was always available to talk. He always had good advice, and he was just really smart. So that was a very special relationship that has stood well for me in the test of time. And I also learned, he was so good relating to the students that, I've been able to relate to my trainees that way as well. I went in to epidemiology in cancer epidemiology, not really quite knowing what it was that I wanted to do. So I went around and I talked to different faculty to find out what they were doing, what was interesting. And Dr. Weiss was doing things that I was really, really interested in. So I found him just by, if you will, interviewing the faculty there at the university. It's kind of the best approach to try to talk to as many people as you can when you're trying to make a really important life decision. Because especially if you're asking people about what they're doing and why they made the decisions that they make and that sort of thing, people usually like to talk about those things and they like to share that, right? And you can just capture so much information that way. If I was going to give someone advice about leadership, I think I would mention several things. And one is to think about the role models that you have had in your life and what you liked about them. What sort of things did they do that really made you feel comfortable and made you feel motivated and made you feel excited about the work that you were doing? And to take those same mannerisms and those same approaches and apply it to your leadership roles. I would also say ask for advice. You know, there's lots of great leaders out there, right? And you can learn so much from them, and they're usually quite willing to talk to you to help you start out being a leader. I also think a good leader has to start thinking beyond themselves, thinking beyond their own research program, thinking beyond their own lab, thinking beyond their own clinic, to more of a global view of what's good for the institution, what's good for the department, what's good for the cancer center. And when you do that, you start seeing things in a little different way, and you really need to be open to that so that you can be the most effective leader that you can. And then I think the most important thing about being a leader is that you have to listen. You have to listen to people. You have to listen to feedback. You have to listen to advice. You have to listen to suggestions. Doesn't mean, you always have to agree with everybody, but you always have to listen.